everything's happening in the way that it's meant to help you learn and grow and be the person that can achieve the dreams that you want. Past is something that lives on in our memories, but it's not part of our reality anymore. We have to keep moving forward. If things were meant to happen, they would have. If the love of your life was ever going to choose you, they would have chosen you from the start. You don't have to become someone to then be chosen by them. When you read a nonfiction book, you have in your hands the best ideas from the brightest minds in history. You have an opportunity to give yourself an edge on the game of life. I actually think I've grown the most through reading fantasy. Through empathizing with characters conquering their dreams, I was able to expand my belief and my understanding of what I'm capable of. These characters showed me that I could build my future if only I was brave enough to try. So if you want to change your life, here are the best books that will empower you on your life quest. The first one is The Mountain Is You. This book showed me the biggest barrier to my dreams is actually myself, my own self-sabotaging habits. It helps you to reframe things, get out of your own way so you can actually start building your dreams. Habits, insecurities, and beliefs can either empower us or they can hinder us in our goals. This book is the #1 spot for me because it finally showed me how to get through some of those mental traps that were holding me back. If you're looking for something to help you get out of a rut, watch this video and get this book. Okay, the next book I want to talk to you guys about is Manifest. I've been known to be a little resistant to new age spiritual content. It feels kind of woo-woo to me sometimes and not real. I've been talking about manifestation on this channel and in my real life. I've just been calling it something else. The biggest takeaway from this is that it really rebranded manifestation for me and showed me that it's, you know, a concrete, real thing. It's not just like a woo spiritual thing with crystals and whatnot. And this book, like The Mountain Is You, really helped me to shift my internal beliefs and help me to align with the woman that I want to be in the future. Unless you believe that you're worthy of your future, you'll continue to be doing things that self-sabotage the dreams that you say you have. In the literal sense, manifest means to bring something to be true. So when we talk about manifesting your dreams, we're talking about bringing them into reality and making them real and taking them out of the realm of imagination and into the realm of reality, which I talk about like on every other episode. I just didn't realize we're all calling it manifestation. I guess you can officially consider me a convert now. Welcome to the manifestation community, big fan. 3 main takeaways were that you are worthy of the dreams in your heart. You're brave enough to face your future. And self-sabotage and your limiting beliefs are your biggest barriers to entry. So the next book I have is from one of my favorite YouTubers. Her name is Mina Irfan. There is no other life coach who has helped me to grow more in my relationships and my self-worth than her. I know the title is clickbait, but you know, like when you say a man has cojones and you mean it to say that he's brave. I think that's what she was trying to get across in this book, that she was trying to make an empowering title for women. And it just came out really hilarious. The subtitle of this is How to Be Savagely Successful in a World Addicted to Suffering. Oh my gosh. Can you just take a moment to see how many tabs I have made in this book? I really enjoy physically destroying books and like writing the margins and whatnot. Don't hate me. I know that, you know, you library junkies will cringe at that, but it helps me learn to write notes. At the end of every chapter, she has journal prompts that you can use to kind of marinate on the subjects. And I wanted to just like bring one of my favorite chapters up to show you guys that I know I've talked about before. This chapter, called Be a Bitch Once, is all about being in authenticity of what you truly want. There will be many times in your life when you're asked to do something out of your capacity and you're asked to do things you don't really want to do. In that moment, you have 2 options. You can agree to do something that you don't really want to do and feel internal resentment for yourself as a way to people please for the other person to make them happy. Or you can live in your authenticity and say, no, I don't want to do that, and be a happier woman for it. Saying no initially is a much better route to success in a relationship than saying yes, you want to do something and then just backing out later. If you set expectations that you're going to show up for someone and then you don't, they actually are hurt more than if you just say no from the start. Unfortunately, I don't have a physical copy of the next book I'm going to tell you about, and I can't believe that I don't have a copy of it. Now that we've spent all this time talking about New Age personal development, I want to talk about the OG personal development genre. and that is philosophy. Philosophy strives to answer life's most important questions: how to live a good life. You can read a lot of really intense philosophy books like this. You can read Plato, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius. You can read any religious text. They're all trying to give you different perspectives on how to live a good life. I think the most impactful philosophy book for me was actually much more digestible, and that is The Alchemist. Probably floats around like 100-150 pages, but it's about this man's journey to live out his life purpose, and in the process he finds love and he really grows into himself and spiritual awakening in the process. It's so motivational if you feel lost on your journey to reread that book, because there's nothing else that gives me more faith that things will work out as they're meant to, and there's nothing else that gives me more faith that the universe is trying to help me along my journey. And that book really showed me that everything's happening in the way that it's meant to help you learn and grow and be the person that can achieve the dreams that you want. My favorite quote from the book is that when you truly want something, everything in the universe conspires to help you achieve it. I have found that true in my own life, and I've seen that in other people. If you say you really want something, you show up and you act as if you really do, and the rest of the world helps you along in that journey. The next book I'll suggest is Sapiens. I was very resistant to history growing up. I didn't enjoy it in history class. I found history class to be so utterly boring. It was date after date after date after date that had to be memorized about events that didn't seem to apply to me very much anymore. I usually mentally checked out and did what I had to do to get a good grade and moved on, but I was never emotionally invested. I enjoy a good romantic period piece, but I think it's more to the point that I enjoy stories about interesting people, and that concept couldn't get across to me in history class. So when I came across Sapiens, the subtitle of which is A Brief Story of Humankind, it tells the story of humanity through such an engaging lens that I couldn't put it down. It talked about how big societal changes affect our evolution and they affected our society. It was fascinating to learn how we in agriculture domesticated our behavior, and how religion changed our perception of the world, and how the invention of money changed how we interacted with each other. That was just absolutely fascinating to me, and it really kind of opened my eyes a little bit to learn more about history and, you know, what made us us today. If you're not a huge history buff, but you're definitely interested in learning more about us as the people, as humans, definitely pick that up. We've officially entered the most transformative book genre for my personal development, and that is fiction or fantasy, mostly fantasy, but like there's some fiction books. I actually was in remedial English when I started school. I had a really hard time picking up the subject of reading, and my brain didn't really get the concept for a while. And then my mom had the clever idea of having me listen to Harry Potter as I kind of watched the letters and started to learn how to read. At that point, I think my brain kind of clicked at the process of how you were supposed to read. Or maybe I was just interested in magic and fairies more than I was interested in whatever my English teacher was sharing. Fantasy has a special part in my heart, but we will start chit-chatting about fiction because for credibility's sake, there should be some classics on the list, right? The first classic that was extremely transformational in my life was The Great Gatsby. If you're not a book person, I don't know why you'd be watching a 20-minute video about books, but watch the movie. The movie is so good. Leonardo DiCaprio is so hot. The woman they chose for Daisy is perfect for the role. And they have so many really, really well-placed quotes for the book inside the movie scenes, and the cinematography is amazing. I think Beyonce and Jay-Z did the soundtrack, so it's all phenomenal. Go watch the movie even if you want to also read the book. I always personally resonated with this because I feel in so many instances in my life I find myself ruminating about the past. One of the biggest takeaways in this book is that Gatsby is trying to rewrite the past, so he's still in love with Daisy even though she didn't choose him. And he thinks that since he's made himself into this like wealthy man who lives now on an island, that he's worthy of Daisy and that she will choose him. But the lesson in this book is that you can't really ever change the past. If things were meant to happen, they would have. You can't just go fix things because you're a different person than you were then. If the love of your life was ever going to choose you, they would have chosen you from the start. You don't have to become someone to then be chosen by them. My personal favorite quote from the book is, "So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past." I do a lot of ruminating on the past of my own life. I know it's not good for me, and I know intellectually I can't change it, but sometimes emotionally I feel myself going back to places that don't exist. The past is something that lives on in our memories, but it's not part of our reality anymore. We have to keep moving forward. Honestly, we're gonna just cause ourselves more pain than anything else if we're trying to revive something from the past. The next book I want to talk to you about is The Picture of Dorian Gray. This is by Oscar Wilde. In this book, there's a painting that represents all the sins that Dorian has committed over the course of his life. And even though Dorian stays handsome and youthful, this picture shows the reality of his soul. There is no way out of immoral action. Even if on the surface your life seems like it is a morally unjust one, the wrongdoings you've committed over the course of your life still affect your soul. And if you're a religious person, you know that that's something that God sees, but it's even something that you notice, kind of will chip away at your soul itself. Alright, we are back to physical books. Sci-fi and fantasy are the most fun genre in the bookstore, in case you didn't know. And there's tons to choose from. This one specifically is a cult classic. Stranger in a Strange Land is about a human who's raised on Mars who then comes to live on Earth in his adulthood. So you see human society from the lens of how he was taught from the Martians. That's all real cool, really interesting. But this is my favorite book for a different reason. There's a character in here called Jubal. He has more wise wisdom nuggets than any person I've ever met. I would find myself giggling as I was reading this at the commentary from this character. I had a blast. It was a great time. And till this day, some of the advice from this character still sticks in my mind and is super helpful. So my favorite quote from this book: "Congratulations, a desire not to butt into other people's business is 80% of all human wisdom." If that doesn't give you a sense of this character's personality, I don't know what is. That stuck with me so deeply, especially in the context of my relationships, because whatever someone's opinion of you is none of your business. Someone can believe that you're selfish, shallow, or a bitch. Someone can believe that you're immature. And that doesn't matter. That's not your problem. It's not my perception of myself. I know myself such that these things that other people think of me don't resonate with my soul. Just focus on your own business, focus on yourself, and don't go out of your way to gossip and figure out other people's opinions. It's not worth it. I think of this book as my entry to contemporary fantasy, we'll call it. So most of the newer fantasy I read now has a female protagonist. But when I started reading fantasy in the genre, I was reading more classics like Lord of the Rings, like The Chronicles of Narnia, and that's all great. Like, those are good books, but it's sometimes, if you're a woman, it's harder to empathize with those people if they're not sharing your full life experience. Before reading this book, I always felt like fantasy was fun, but I didn't really see myself in any of the characters. This book stays on my list because it's not like overly feminist, which is not a bad thing to have a feminist book, but sometimes I find that fantasy female characters are kind of like hitting you over the head with the fact that they're an empowered woman, or that they're a woman on the battlefield, or that they're a woman doing magic. Like, we get it. We see her doing the things. We don't need to keep reiterating the fact that she also happens to be a woman. I love this because she was like this incredibly powerful necromancer saving the kingdom. That was just her duty to do. Like, the fact that she was a woman didn't really come up very much. She was just off saving the world, doing her thing, following in her father's footsteps that was expected from her family. There never came up whether or not she was capable to do so based on her gender. It just was expected that she would be able to. I love this. I don't know why, but I have no trouble reading scary things in books. I don't watching scary shows, but this is a necromancy kind of dark fantasy show, so if you don't like reading about monsters, demons, and ghosts, maybe avoid that one, but technically YA, so it's not really that scary, just FYI, things come back from the dead. We have finished this video with a cult classic. We could not talk about favorite books without talking about the queen of contemporary fantasy, Sarah J. Maas. Let's just take a moment. Look at how beautiful this collector's edition is. Incredible, right? You know, I would have just bought it because it's pretty, but on top of that, it was a good book. It has all this lovely detailing on the edges, and the chapter headers have really, really beautiful stuff. Anyways, what's inside it was phenomenal. The Court of Thorns and Roses is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I love myth retellings. I think Hades and Persephone is probably my favorite myth retelling ever, but you also know, if you watch my previous video, that Beauty and the Beast is probably one of my favorite fairy tales. To see a book rewrite a fairy tale in a more contemporary way, super fun for me. I tend to like fantasy books based on how much I enjoy the protagonist. Feyre, I really resonated with. I saw a lot of myself in her, and seeing her grow in her power and her self-confidence throughout the course of the series was really empowering for me. And I think I sat in my reading chair and did not move until I finished these. You're actually, you being the camera, you're propped up on book 2 of this series. I have reread them so many times because every time I read them, the characters, their commentary makes me smile so much. Sarah is phenomenal at creating characters that have a lot of depth, but are really like light and fun to be around. And you just want to be like a part of the court and a part of their family. And it's so fun. I spent time giggling, crying, laughing, being angry at the characters in these books, and I read them at a time where I was going through a breakup, and it was really what I needed at the time to find my self-worth again and to feel like the powerful woman that I am. Pick them up. If you've not read Sarah's books before, I don't suggest you start here. Actually, I think Throne of Glass is a better series itself from a literary perspective, but this is on the list because this is a series that personally spoke to me. Alright everyone, so that's all I have for you today. This was a little different video. I hope you liked it. I've had a lot of fun making it for you. Have fun reading. I really hope that some of these books inspired you to learn and go expand your mind. I get kind of sad when people tell me they haven't read since high school. There's so many fun adventures you can go on inside books, and there's so much growth spiritually and intellectually that you can find. I always want you to continue to be curious as you grow older. Leave your favorite books in the comments box below. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe so that you can have all my content. Good luck everyone.